All right, folks, welcome to Beyond the Pitch here and the Manchester United show, which has been a while since we broadcast this. My co-host here has been over at Old Trafford. So this is, as you know, this is a new platform for us. So we're just getting to know it here, getting to use it. So thanks for joining us, Martino. Thanks very much for joining us again, mate. Brilliant to have you back.
Superb, mate. Good to see that face again. How's everything?
Not too bad. Enjoying watching United again. Starting to feel like a Manchester United team. Starting to feel like a United team that you hoped this is what it would have looked like under Moyes, under Van Gaal. United team with United characteristics. Going behind in a game, scoring with 10 minutes to go and saying to yourself, if United score in the last 10 minutes, they'll score again. And I felt that today, starting to look very much like a Jose Mourinho team, which is a Manchester United team.
Yeah, absolutely. They, like you, I certainly got that feeling. If we could just get that one after we went down today, you felt like we were going to win it, and it's kind of how it's felt now for the last couple of months or so. To be honest with you, a little bit of bad luck in those earlier games, and okay, you make your own luck, and maybe you could say that we were masters of our own downfall, I suppose, in those draws, winning draws that I would like to call them, because we're dominating games, we're playing well, we're playing at tempo, and that, on Sir Alex's 75th birthday today, what a way to win it.
Do you know, when I look at some of the criticisms Mourinho faced, some of them are ridiculous. He hasn't smiled enough. I wonder if Pep Guardiola getting criticised for not smiling today. He put people in danger by kicking water bottles. And then when he does smile sarcastically, we can't have that. And, it's going to be boring. It's going to be negative. It's going to be park the bus football. He lost his way last year. He's not the same Mourinho. He's not special. People thought that he was just going to come in here, buy a few players, and it was going to be Manchester United of old. I mean, what he's done in the space of time that he's done it, for me, the evidence in whether Mourinho was working or not wasn't necessarily going to be about results. It was going to be about the way Manchester United played. And if United are playing games where they're drawing one each and missing a handful of chances, you can't blame Mourinho for that. All Mourinho can do is get United playing well. It's up to the players to take the chances after that. The other thing that's really noticeable to me is players who have been dropped, who get back in, show their character, they play with a point to prove. You saw Martial today, desperate to make sure he's not on the bench next week. Mkhitaryan gets in, plays out of his skin, desperate to keep his place. Previously under Van Gaal and under Moyes, when you would have players left in, brought out, you didn't see that. And one of the things that I really like about Mourinho is there's no special treatment. Van Gaal was Rooney gets special treatment. He's a captain. He plays whether he plays well or not. With Mourinho, it's just black and white. You play well, you stay in. You don't, you're out.
Well, I think we talked about it early on, didn't we? Our feeling was always that he was going to give Rooney enough rope to hang himself. Now, Rooney was a little unfortunate because he was actually getting into a little bit of form, and then he gets that injury. But it's like you say, there's no special treatment. If you're playing well, you're going to play. If you're not, albeit occasionally it may be tactical, because we know Juan Mata has been superb for us. But Juan Mata is a type of player who could be played for certain matches. It was clear with the lineup he put out today that it was all about pace. Mkhitaryan flying one side, you got Martial flying the other side, Pogba pulling the strings there, along with having to rest a couple of players, obviously, for Monday's match. But for the most part, if you're playing well, you're staying in the team. It's not, it's pretty cut and dry. Now, I don't know how you feel about this, but I mean, I look back now, early couple of months of this season, and you hear a lot of criticism again. Say what you want to say about it, but it's wrong. It's this: Mourinho doesn't know his best 11 until he finds his best 11. There's no such thing as a best 11.
Football cliche, Martin.
For me, right? It's best 11. It's subjective, isn't it? I mean, it's a best 13 or 14. Let's be honest. I mean, there's teams for games these days. There's teams for certain matches. There's teams that we have to go and maybe be a little bit more conservative when we play away or put men behind the ball. And there's teams when, like today against Middlesbrough, he wants to put a team out there with pace and aggression and desire. and that's the only reason Juan Mata doesn't start the game. So, maybe in the first couple of months, Mourinho gave a lot of players chances to perform. They've not performed, and now you're starting to see that bench shorten a little bit, and you're starting to find out who really wants to be a Man United player. Hence the reason Memphis is nowhere.
This is it. You see, talent will get you to United. The rest of it is up to you and your character and personality. When you look at United, and as you say, the bench is shortening, and you look at how many players are in the United team right now that have taken chances who weren't in this team in the beginning. Rojo, right, has taken his chance. Valencia has taken his chance.
Who's been superb, by the way.
Yeah.
If not the form right back in Europe.
What did I say at the start of the season when we were doing these? If there's one player that's going to benefit under Mourinho, it'll be Phil Jones, because he knows how to keep people fit, right? He's kept Phil Jones fit. Phil Jones has just had his longest run in Manchester United's team. And he's got a level of consistency out of him that no one else could get. So you've got Mkhitaryan now taking his chances. You've got Herrera now taking his chances. Michael Carrick, who didn't start, now taking his chance. Mourinho was said to every one of them, once you get in, the shirt's yours to lose. You make it hard for me to drop you. And that United team right now, you talk about his best 11. Most managers know their best 8 or 9.
Absolutely.
It's the 10, the other two. There's always 1 or 2 positions that's up for grabs every week, depending on who you're playing and injuries and suspensions and form and everything else. Mourinho, you now know more or less who Mourinho's best 7 or 8 is, more or less. And so he's done brilliant to get that. He said one of the hardest things to do at United, at any football club, is to get consistency. He's starting to get consistency. 5 wins in a row more. But I feel like today was such an important 3 points for United, because it's a game that will give United players enormous belief that this is not just a patch of form. This is real.
Yeah, I mean, there's winning matches, and then there's the way you win matches. We've not scraped a win today, albeit a 2-1. That's not a scrape win. We've dominated. We've had 30 odd shots. All right, we weren't successful with our first 30, and then we banged the last 2 in. I mean, man, you can watch that game back. It's not a 2-1 game, is it? Let's be honest. But scoring that and the way you win a game there, you don't just come away with the feeling of 3 points. Yes, that's the important part, but what that does for the squad and what that does for the dressing room is, you really can't put it into words, because that gives you massive, massive self-belief and confidence, and a throwback to the Fergie days there when we were never out of it.
Well, it would have been really easy for United players to find an excuse to lose or draw that game today and feel sorry for themselves. A referee cost us a game. It was a referee's fault. Once again, just like a West Ham game, just like Sunderland, when who was it got absolutely cleaned in the box? I can't remember who it was. Referees. Who was it?
Wasn't it Darmian? That was Burnley. Darmian got done in the box.
Who was it?
You've had
Kone absolutely cleaned.
Yeah.
Yeah. He emptied one of the United players in the box, right? And clear penalty. Same thing away. Same thing at West Ham. Referees affecting outcomes of the game by missing simple decisions. And there's this myth that goes around: United get decisions. Actually, referees are so conscious of not giving United decisions, I feel the opposite happens. Do they get more penalties than most other teams? Well, they do whenever they spend 80% of the game attacking. Absolutely. Inevitably, you're going to get more penalties than Burnley, right? So it's not a fair comparison. It's not apples to apples. But look, they could have found an excuse to drop points today. They didn't, and Martial has moved in the middle. I loved Mourinho's substitutions. How many times did we criticize Van Gaal's substitutions last season? Right? Mourinho's substitutions today,
going to 3 at the back.
Positive.
Yep, going to 3 at the back, knowing that the run we're on, we got to keep it going at all costs. Hey, you know what? If we're going to lose 2-0, we'll lose 2-0. We'll lose 3-0. Didn't matter. Put him on. Get 3 at the back. Get 2 down the middle. Get our width. Rashford was direct. Mkhitaryan direct. Martial direct. Running, scaring the life out of defenders. I mean, it was brilliant. For
me, one of the biggest differences to last season when United needed a goal, we're bringing in Fellaini. Mm-hmm. This season, when they need a goal, they're taking Fellaini off.
Yeah.
took him off and brought on Rashford, took Smalling off, right? So for me, that's what I want to see. I understood why Starfelt to then rested Carrick. Somewhere Carrick has to get a rest.
Absolutely.
Right? Big difference. That is how I want a Man United team to attack. With width, speed out wide, people who have the ability to take players on, and the ability to go to a bench and say, son, go change the game for me. Right? Not, here's Fellaini, start lobbing long balls on the back.
Yeah.
Hey, to be fair, Mourinho started doing that at the start of the season and has now moved on from it. So, brilliant result. And really the last 4 or 5 games have been excellent, Martin.
What's happening too now with that, if we've got anything from this, we've got a settled midfield three. We absolutely have found what the formula is to get the best out of Herrera, to get the best out of Pogba, and to get the best out of Zlatan. Having Herrera in there with his work rate, his energy, and the quality he possesses on the ball, and the quality he possesses breaking up the play, and he's broke up now. He's got more interceptions than N'Golo Kante, who's supposed to be the greatest defensive midfielder in the world, if you like to believe it. Herrera does everything that Kante does right now, and probably a little bit more. Now, then you have Pogba. He's now been allowed to slide slightly left of that midfield three, but he's been able to get closer to Zlatan now. And you see Pogba popping up on the edge of the box a lot more now than you did early on in the season. You see Herrera getting shot after shot from the edge of the box.
Yep.
And it's allowing a little bit more width because now we're not so isolated in the middle, when the ball comes in. It's just night and day to what we've seen for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Very optimistic. Let's talk about some of the people that will probably move out this summer or in January. So Mourinho has said Depay put in a transfer request more or less 2 months ago. Martin, that sentence alone right there tells you everything you need to know about Memphis Depay. Memphis Depay put in a transfer request. How brain dead is he? To put a transfer request in November?
Especially when you're looking at Mkhitaryan, who's had a similar run out.
You can't go anywhere but in November. You might as well just shut your mouth. Try to get your place in the team, salvage your United career instead of looking for a way out, knocking on Mourinho's door and saying, "Here, boss, I wanna leave." Where are you going?
The shame, the sad thing about it is we both thought there was a player there, but you know what? He may well have the ability, but he's clearly showing now he doesn't have the backbone, he doesn't have the fight for it. So you know what? On you go. And for him to put in a transfer request, I know we're going to play a little bit of hardball, but it's not like the Schneiderlin deal where maybe we've had a couple of bids from West Brom that we're not happy with. But I feel like if we get anything in the ballpark for Memphis at this point, he may well be moved on. Look, like in a few days here.
Think about 2 months ago, United were 2 months ago. They're struggling for form, struggling for wins. They're still in the Europa League. Nobody's settled. Martial hasn't nailed the place down. Jesse Lingard, who's the least talented of Martial and Depay, showing the attitude that you need to show when you get your chance, and that kid plays above himself every week. Always contributes something. He scores, creates, whatever.
Yeah. Makes the absolute most of every bit of talent he has.
I'm okay with it.
Yep.
Whereas Depay, clearly a talented lad, but it takes more than that. And so if you're putting a transfer request in when there's 2 months to go before you hit the transfer window, and you haven't got the spine to knuckle down and fight for your career at one of the biggest football clubs in the world, then I don't want you at Manchester United anyway. And that's exactly what Mourinho has to get out at United. That attitude, the type of players that when things go wrong, they blame everybody but themselves. Look, Moyes and Van Gaal weren't up to managing Manchester United, but the players didn't help them. And there were certain players inside those dressing rooms that got those managers to sack by down in tools. Mourinho has to get that out of the dressing room. What he has to get in that dressing room is exactly what he's getting right now with the likes of Martial and players that when they get a chance, they're desperate to nail down a place. So good riddance to Depay. United don't need to replace him.
Well, that's just it. And that's the key. We don't need to replace him.
Because he hasn't been a factor for how long now?
He hasn't been effective, and you've also got Rashford sitting there, who's people seem to forget that he's a 20-year-old kid.
He needed a rest to me.
His time will come anyway. You know, you've got Lingard there who's ready, waiting in the wings. You can slightly change things if you want to go a slightly different dimension, and Mata can play out there. Mkhitaryan's now playing well out there. I mean, Rooney was playing well out there. So, you know what, like you say, good riddance. If you're not going to fight, you're not the backbone, the slightest little bit of indifference in your form, and that's your key, is to blame others and they get me out of here, then you don't belong.
All right, Lindelof. So, situation more or less. United were definitely interested in the lad. There was an issue over Benfica wanting to not pay the add-on fee to the team in Sweden, whatever, Vastas, or whatever it's called. So they upped the fee to United. Now, for me, there's a big risk of bringing in a young defender in January, especially for 30-odd million, because you have to play him. And as we saw when United brought in Vidic and Evra, who were 25 and 26, round about there when United brought them in.
Yeah.
Experienced players. Took them 6 months to adjust, Martin. No one will ever forget Evra's first game in Manchester Derby. Right? But they had the mentality to recover from that. If you bring a young player in at 21, 22, stick him in United's defence, has a rough start. This kid hasn't played 50 professional games yet. Sometimes kids don't recover from that. And we've just finished talking about Memphis Depay, a talented young lad. Maybe mentally is the issue, didn't recover from not finding his form. So for me, I think it makes more sense for United to wait and bring Lindelof in the summer if that's a player they want. And the same for anybody else, because one of the hardest things for United to shift is players that United have had brutal recruitment before Mourinho. And trying to move those players on is hard. They're on big money. They're not easy to shift. And so you really don't want to be bringing in any more players that are going to be hard to shift in 6 months that aren't right. So for me, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they don't do anything this month and wait until the summer.
Yeah, that coupled with the great run we're on, you've got to be really careful bringing somebody in when you really don't know the character. You don't want to upset things. I mean, there's not a dire need. It's you know, Jose said he was with the form of Rojo and Jones, and then you have Smalling. All right, we're going to be missing Bailly now for up to 6 weeks. So you got 3 centre backs to pick from there. Daley Blind can always slide back in there. Valencia has just been outstanding, as we've talked about. Darmian can also play on the right there, and Darmian was playing the last few games before when Valencia got injured, so he's been playing well. You've got Luke Shaw apparently ready to come back on Monday, potentially has a chance, and you got Darmian, Blind, Rojo can all play left back. You know, if there is a need, it's who's going to replace Carrick, who I think, by the way, Daley Blind is the obvious replacement moving forward. But I'm with you. We may see a couple of players go. There's no dire need to go out and, you know, panic buy, bring somebody in just for the sake of it being a transfer window.
Luke Shaw is in effect for his Manchester United future. We're talking about players that have taken their opportunity when they've been given it. Luke Shaw is a young lad that has to prove he's mentally fit enough to play in Manchester United's team. Again, not a quality issue.
Yeah, not at all.
Good defender. But Mourinho demands certain standards of his players. And when you remember what it was like to be 18, 19, 20, to miss out on playing football, you would have had to have been half dead.
Yeah.
So when you've got a player who clearly isn't concerned about whether he keeps his place or not, and is not willing to play through the pain barrier for you, Luke Shaw's going to find out quickly, and I'm sure he already has, that's not going to be acceptable. The other part of that is, Martin, when you go back to the Watford game where this issue happened, after that game, his people decided to go to the media and leak stuff to the media in an effort to garner sympathy for Luke Shaw, and it backfired big time on him. It had the opposite effect. Yeah. People came back and said, and backed Mourinho, and Mourinho's well aware of how that happened. So I think Luke Shaw, the next 6 months for him is massive. We talk about Martial. Martial's agent's trying to move him on, right? Yep. Offered him to Sevilla. Mourinho rightfully said, "Don't listen to your agent, listen to me." these footballers are surrounded by people who tell them every 5 minutes how wonderful they are and separate them from reality. Very, very important that you're surrounded by people that are honest with you, that tell you that if Luke Shaw doesn't make it at Manchester United, he faces a massive battle to ever get back to that level again. So
100%.
Big 6 months for that kid.
He's got to prove now. He really does have to prove he's got what it takes to play at this level. I mean,
does he? Do you think he does?
Well, it's like you say. I mean, the qualities are there there to be seen, but there's massive question marks about character, and that's the side of the game now. It's all right. Let's see what you got now, because he's another one. We're going to move him on. Let's get him out of there. If he's not got us fight in him, and that's not willing to scrap for that shirt, then let's move on. Because like you say, he won't get back to that level again. He'll go to a mid-table team who are quite happy to get 20 decent performances a year out of him instead of the 38 in the league.
You got any questions for us, folks? Drop us a tweet at Malakans, myself, or Ugly here. Drop him a tweet at Martin Wallwork. For God's sake, don't tell the cops where he is. Ignore the wanted posters. Give us a tweet, and we'll happily answer them. We got about another 15-20 minutes here before we wrap it up. But so United's next game, of course, is on Monday, Martin. Couple of days in between these two games, which means continued rotation. I would imagine on Monday, Ibrahimovic gets rested, Pogba gets rested. Two players that have been an ever present for Mourinho. Is that what you expect?
No, I don't see him. Zlatan maybe. I don't see Pogba. I mean, could do with it. I just don't see him, and that's what I love about him. You just get that feeling about him. If you saw his interview after the game today, he's hey, Happy New Year. I'm straight off to an ice bath to get myself ready for Monday. He wants to be in it. These great players, they want to play every minute of every game.
That's what we just said about Luke Shaw. That's the thing it's missing about Luke Shaw. Would you strip Rooney of the captaincy because he's not playing enough?
No. I mean, he's the club captain these days. I don't think at this point, I don't believe you gain anything by doing that. You leave him the club captaincy, and obviously Michael Carrick steps in. Michael Carrick's going to play the majority of the games, down the stretch here, second half of the season. I don't think there's any need to bring up an issue where there isn't one. Save that for the summer.
I have to say, when I look at United, if I was going to take the captaincy off Rooney, I'd give it to Paul Pogba. I think Pogba is really growing into a captain. What I've seen in his body language over the last couple of weeks, when United need something, they're switching off mentally in games, and they need a bit of a lift. Pogba's now starting to be vocal. He's now starting to get the players going. He's now starting to bollock players. Exactly what you need with a young midfielder who's a leader. Martin, he's telling me if United's captaincy.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, the only one who comes close there, Herrera, does the same thing. Herrera is a wonderful influence on the other players, but Pogba, Pogba is going to be there and there to stay, and he's going to be an ever-present. 100%. I would be surprised if he's not United's captain.
Well, then, if he's going to be an ever-present, which Rooney isn't, why not give it to him? Well, let me, and on that, if you're Rooney and you get a big offer from China in January, would you go?
It's a tough one. I just don't see him going to China. But when Carlos Tevez is earning £750,000 a week, it's got to be hard to turn that kind of money down, right?
Do you have a problem with players taking that kind of dosh and going over to China?
No. If that's what you're there for, if that's what you're in the game for, off you go. Wasn't Carlos Tevez the one that a few years ago said that money's ruining the game? I don't want any part of football anymore. Money's ruining the game. Fast forward 2 or 3 years and he's the highest paid player in the world. Look, if that's what you're in the game for, if that's what you need to do, that tells me you've got somewhat of a defeatist attitude and you're not going to play at the top level anymore, so you may as well go and get a payday. If Rooney doesn't believe that he's got anything left to give now, then off you go. I still think he'll end up here in the States.
I'd go and do a show on a lap off the price was right. Believe me.
Hey, listen, give me 6 months out there.
No sweat, dodge up bombs all day long. But in all seriousness, The day is gone of getting sanctimonious about players playing for money, right? I mean, let's be honest. Robinho wasn't growing up with pictures of Colin Bell on his wall in front of Lee, right? um, so this and Faxon Shinawatra bought Man City and barely anybody said a word. For me, there's much more of a moral issue there than players going and playing China and selling their career. Much more of a moral issue when not being in the least bit affected by Roman Abramovich, who's executed his business rivals, and all the other ones who've taken court cases have mysteriously disappeared.
And shifting, buying players for nothing and selling them for big fees. It seemed like there's an awful lot of money being shifted around conveniently.
More dodgy loans than myself, right? And you're like, hang on a minute. Why aren't people? You really want to get upset over players going to China? At least, okay. You may end up with 600 grand a week and a black lung after 12 months, but that's all right. That's your choice.
Yep.
When you look at the money that went into City and into Chelsea, Martin, initially with Shinawatra, which was a disgrace. To me, that's much more of a moral issue than players going to China. Personally, I think for Rooney, I hope that he does go at the end of the season, because I think his time at the top is over, and he reminds me of a boxer that whose brain will still do everything that he could do at 19, but his body won't.
Yeah.
And I take no pleasure in seeing Wayne Rooney not being able to cut it at the highest level. You and I met him up in Seattle, Martin. Was it Seattle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he was a gentleman, really nice guy.
Absolutely.
Superb guy. And I feel a bit sorry for him because the English media have had a clear agenda against him recently. The disgraceful imbalance in the coverage with Rooney's drinking and Roberto Firmino's drinking. Roberto Firmino was drink driving, which was much more serious than Wayne Rooney drinking in a hotel on his day off. Yet one was a national scandal and one was a joke.
One was a joke and drinks are on me, right?
Yeah.
Disgraceful.
So for me, I think Rooney has nothing left to prove. To me, the final analysis on Wayne Rooney will be a guy that didn't live up to what he should have been, despite being a guy that's done an unbelievable amount. His goals to games ratio is exceptional. But when I saw Wayne Rooney at 19, Wayne Rooney was the best 19-year-old I've ever seen. I mean, maybe with the exception of the original Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. Rooney was incredible. He to me, at 24, Martin, after the Champions League final in Moscow, Rooney went like that. And he was 24 back in.
Oh wait, and it's almost like I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, and the same fight wasn't there to prove himself and to continue those standards.
You look at Ibrahimovic now.
Oh, 35 years old. He's got a body of a 25-year-old. I mean, in the way it reacts, it's incredible. It's a shame. It's a shame to see, but he doesn't have anything left to prove, and he's going to be another player that's not fully appreciated until he's hung him up, and you look back and go, "Oh my goodness, look what he did in his career." But the sad thing will always be, and it'll always hang over him, the fact that he didn't kick on, or maybe not kick on, but he didn't maintain those standards for another 5-6 years, which he absolutely should have.
One player I'm glad I got it wrong about was Ibrahimovic. When United were going through that dodgy spell, drawing games, throwing points away, I was critical of Ibrahimovic and his movement. Mm-hmm. I felt that he was way too static and it was causing United problems. The last 6 weeks, 7 weeks, he's been sensational. He's been magnificent. The fact that if his goal had counted today,
not played that differently.
No, I know.
I think our style has changed slightly where we found that midfield three and we're getting more support into him. But yeah, yes. He's just superb again.
I'm going to say the top four, Martin. I think Arsenal finished outside the top four. I think United will finish in the top four. And I'm going to tell you something right now. City are a football club that I think have been sussed out. I think top teams know how to beat City. If you looked at Liverpool today, they were pressed. They've got a dodgy keeper. Their two central defenders are really iffy. And it wouldn't shock me. I think they'll finish top four. But if they didn't, it wouldn't shock me. I think United will finish in the top four. I think they'll have a very strong second half of the season. And come the summer, I think it'll be 2 or 3 signings, not 5 or 6. It's going to be just a couple. And that's exactly where they need to be. I want to ask you about Ryan Giggs, because Swansea are going to appoint Paul Clement, which to me is madness. Then Alan Partridge should have been a shoe-in for that job just to keep him up. Does Ryan Giggs deserve a crack at a top job?
I don't think anybody can ever say he deserves a crack at it. I mean, I don't think anybody deserves it. I mean, the game doesn't owe you anything. He certainly doesn't deserve a crack at a job like that. Well, because he's Welsh. Is that what people are? It's a perfect job for him because he's Welsh. I mean, come on. Swansea is a team that need to stay in the Premier League. They all do. They absolutely have to stay in the Premier League. It's another. Paul Clement may well be a very good manager. It's a crazy, crazy appointment, just like the appointment of Bob Bradley was crazy. You need experience in the Premier League. They cannot take chances. If Ryan Giggs was going to get the United job, he would have got it, after Van Gaal. It was at a point where United could not afford to gamble and go with Giggs. Sentimentally, of course, you want him in charge. It'd be lovely. You can't. There's no room for sentiment in football. You've got to go. He's going to have to take, a championship, first division club. Take a job there first.
You mean like Jaap Stam?
Exactly like Jaap Stam.
If you get, personally, in my opinion, a top half championship team is better than taking over Swansea. Swansea are going down. If Giggs takes the wrong job right away, that's going to hurt him. Gary Neville took a wrong job. I understood why he took it, but you need to speak the language to have any chance. If Giggs takes the wrong job right away, Giggs will confirm the suspicion that he's not a top-level manager. You had an amazing career, but if you really look at Ryan Giggs' career and the feelings that he had in his career, there's characteristics in Ryan Giggs that would concern me as a manager. And I don't think he gets to walk away from the Moyes and Van Gaal situations.
He was still the first-team coach. In both areas, he's still the first-team coach. So he has to take something on the chin there from both failed regimes.
Yeah. So for me, Ryan Giggs needs to go and take a job in the lower level and learn the trade for a couple of years before he can throw his hat in the ring for a top job. And here's the thing, Martin. See, if he was to go and do well with a top club or a championship club, he'd walk into a top job in a second. Because top clubs want to give him a job.
Yes,
he just has to prove that he can do this job, and he doesn't have to do it the way Eddie Howe would have to do it, or any other player or personality that wasn't a top player that has to prove it the hard way. Giggs just has to show he has
something. I mean, he's got something on his CV.
Some aptitude to manage.
Yeah, and it's like, we were in a discussion, shall we say, with someone on Twitter the other day about it. I was in a lengthy discussion with a gentleman, brought up some good points about Giggs, but ultimately, it's what people fail to realize is it's okay saying, give him a chance, managing a team and being independently responsible for everything that goes on at that football club, from the first team all the way down. It's absolutely nothing like being a top player for your entire career. There's really no correlation between the two. You can point at Zidane, you can point at Guardiola. That's 2 exceptions to the rule. Look at all the failed great players who've tried to become managers. I'd rather look at those than the 2 exceptions to the rule. He has to take a job. Like I said, I think championship, maybe a League One team, just do well with them. And like you say, teams want to give him a job, but they've just got to have something to back it up on. And All
right, before we go, let's talk about West Ham. Eric Bailly will miss the game, Martin. He's gone. Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire. But Bailly misses the game. I suppose that's where Mourinho played him today. without worrying whether it's going to play Monday. It's away against West Ham. West Ham haven't played well at that new stadium. Lost today against Leicester. What do you fancy? Do you think United go and beat them?
I think United go and beat them. I think they really roll after on the confidence from today's game. They'll make 2 changes at the back for sure. I think Rojo and Jones come straight back in. Blind slides straight back in at left back. Valencia stays. Carrick comes back into the team at Fellaini's expense, and maybe at least one of the front 3 will get a breather. I would imagine Martial stays in while he's playing well. Maybe Zlatan drops out, but I fully expect to see Pogba. Maybe he switches Herrera too. But I think
at least sticks Martial down the middle, gives Ibrahimovic a rest.
He brings Rashford in.
Sticks Rashford on the left.
Yeah,
because Martial went down the middle with Ibrahimovic towards the second half, and scored the goal from playing down the middle.
Yeah.
So,
what do you reckon? You think we take it?
I think United will win it, but I because I think United have that belief now to go to places like West Ham and win and expect to win. I think United, but I think it'll be a close game. I think there'll be a goal. It'll be like 1-0, 2-1. So
the important thing for us at this point. Important thing for us at this point is just keep picking up our points. Because a lot of them top teams playing each other right around this time. Obviously today, I mean, we've been unfortunate actually. 5 wins before today, 5 wins on the bounce there, and really not. Our league position hasn't changed, but we've closed the gap. We've started reeling those teams in, and all you got to do at this point, someone will drop points each week, and you've got to make sure we're capitalising on it, picking up our points, and now we're in touching distance. Whereas you're going to start seeing league positions change.
See if the league ended today and United finished 6th, I'd be happy with what I'm seeing. Because for me, with United, it was about improvement. It was about getting better. It was about fixing the problems. It was about making them entertaining to watch again.
Because that's the key.
United are not entertaining to watch. Yeah, they're entertaining to watch. You look throughout the team, and you're confident going into games. Last season, every big game United played, I was not confident. I didn't feel like I didn't know United's next goal was coming from. I just think you forget last season United fans were cheering corners. This time last season, it was Sheffield United. Where Van Gaal was celebrating Sheffield United getting one shot, or not getting a shot at home, a League One team. It was so bad. The Norwich performance, where United lost 2-1 at Old Trafford, Martin, was one of the worst performances I've ever seen at United. It was just horrific. So the difference, what I'm seeing now at United, is something very real. And as I said before, I'm confident United will go out and sign Griezmann this summer, whether Simeone stays or not. And United are very confident that they'll do that. So I think, and to me, that would be a replacement for Rooney, a link man. So everything looking positive, and I don't expect United to go unbeaten between now and the end of the season. But I remember the last show that we did where we said it wouldn't surprise me if United went on a 15-16 game unbeaten run, because they're that close, right? Because they were dominating games and drawing them, and you said they're close.
Well, we said, and I'll still stick by what I said a few weeks ago, that someone's going to be on the end of a hiding here pretty soon. And again, 30 shots today, only a couple of goals to show for it. Somebody's going to get a hiding pretty soon. I'd
say it's going to be you. You keep stealing them buns out of the wife's out of the fridge. The wife gets home, finds that you're still cooking in them.
It's still Christmas time, mate. It's still Christmas time. I'm allowed to.
Folks, that'll do it for us today. Thanks for watching again. We'll get back to doing these on a regular basis. My co-host here was over in Manchester, Old Trafford. And so I hope you all had a nice Christmas. Happy New Year to everybody. We'll do another one of these after the West Ham game. So thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, tweet us with questions and all that there. All the best. Cheers, Martin. Out.
Cheers, mate. Happy New Year.
Right, folks. Happy New Year.